Today I'm going to show you why you need to just stop turning your hips and why nearly 99% of you get hip turn in the golf swing completely wrong and misunderstood. So let's start with a question. What do you think is a good hip turn range in the backswing? So in degrees, what I want you to do is post comments in the comment section down below and I will reveal the answer come the end of the video. So 100 degrees, 20 degrees, how far should your hips be rotating in the backswing? What have you got for me? While you're down there, hit the like button if you find this information useful. Also, don't be afraid to subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. So let's show you a real student here from JD Golf Academy where you can see blatantly that the student wants to thrust their hips up towards the target. Now, to help this student improve their club path, which they were struggling with, what myself and the guys at JD Golf Academy worked on were some of the tips that you're going to see in this video. You can really see though on the backswing that his hips don't appear like they're thrusting massively forward, but they are, certainly if you draw that line on his trail butt side. But then on a downswing, because of what he's done on the backswing, he just pushes them even further and kind of way out from the plane of glass at the back of him. Now, when it comes to the range of movement of this player's hip turn, it's in range. So whatever you're guessing for range down in the description, if you're getting it right, this player's within that range, but they're thrusting too far towards the ball, which is really making them struggle with club path. Now, remember, just thrusting your hips towards the ball isn't a fault in itself. There are many good players who have done this move. If you can manage it and you're a good player and you hit good shots, you wouldn't change it. But for many golfers, including the student here at the JD Golf Academy, what we found is it absolutely was hurting how they delivered the club to the ball, certainly strike position on the face. So the root start of this issue for many golfers is in their setup. We see it time and time again, and it's to do with the gap between the top of the club and the kind of chest and the top of the legs. And it's to do also with how far the backside gets stuck behind the heels or not. And the pattern we see is the backside getting quite close to the back of the heel. So if I draw a line down from the back of my backside here down, it kind of almost touches my heels. And with this thrusted forward, then we have these kind of hands out and raised. And this is encouraging this hip and the pelvis to want to turn this way, almost as if they're trying to close this gap up during the swing, but it doesn't work. It's just you're going to get in your own way, and that's very much when we do start seeing the segments starting to stack on top of each other. What we see from better players is a real separation of the two segments. So say your lower half, so from your belt buckle down and your belt buckle up, a separation where the backside goes back and the upper body goes forwards, and they do that to balance the same way as if something goes back, something goes forwards. They're doing that in golf. What other golfers are doing is they're trying to stack everything on top of each other to keep their balance more kind of vertically. So what we need to try and get is your backside pushing back from behind your heels at address. We need that backside, that pelvis pushing back, but then we need the arms. So with the driver, they're going to hang down and be kind of just under your chin. So we don't want these ones where they're out in front of your chin. With the iron, your arms are going to hang down more from your shoulders. Obviously, if your pelvis is pushed forwards, they can't do that because they hit. And a good gauge for this, really basic, thumbs and a fist width, top of the club, top of lead leg. That's about the gap you want. With an iron, with a driver, it's a fraction more. It's almost like 2 thumbs and a fist. But hands also underneath your chin to make sure we get this separation of the pelvis going back, upper body coming forwards, so we can then start getting the rotations the way we want them. So to understand how the hips actually move, not on a 2D camera, you've got to get your head around the shape they are and how they're going to move in 3D space. Hence, we've got these things. I have an apple, as round as I can find one, and a bit of bread. Bear with me. Bear with me. So if I cut this apple in half, and let's pretend this is my hips. So let's pretend we're hitting the ball this way. So this would be me rotating my hips on the backswing. Down into impact, this would be me rotating my hips on the way through to follow through. So we're looking down kind of at my hips. The golf ball would be out here. If our hips were round, like an apple, more circular, if we use this back line here, or if we use this front line here, if I was hitting it this way or this way as a left-hander, basically what happens as you rotate around the center point, you're going to find that your hips would just stay on this line, a circle turning around a fixed point. If you had two lines here and here, they're literally just going to turn around it. We're not going to see any part of your backside. So this is trail backside, this is lead, glute, lead, backside. They're not going to break the line. And if this was the backside, this side hitting this way again, they're just going to rotate. Okay? Now on a 2D camera, that's going to look like you've not thrust your hips forward at all or moved. But our hips are not round. So our hips are a little bit more of a funny shape, like this funny demonstration. So let's say this is our hips now. So here's our hips. So this is my trail glute and this is my lead glute hitting the ball this way. If we turn around a center point now, what happens is the trail glute goes beyond, it breaks that plane of glass. And then as we rotate on the way through, again, it breaks that plane of glass. If you were to take this point here as your fixed point and turn around that point, keeping that on the plane of glass, you're actually thrusting your hips forwards towards the target. And there lies the problem. People focus this kind of movement on a trail or lead part of their hip, but actually they need to be getting more depth in feeling to stay turning around a center point, because our pelvis is this funny bread shape. Is it really? But you know what I mean. It's not circular, which lots of people kind of base it in their mind as. And that fundamental breakdown is just wrong. You're getting it completely wrong. So trying to get that pelvis to turn around the right point for lots of golfers means that their pelvis needs to almost feel like it's got more depth as it turns, like it's actually going back, rather than obviously around that fixed spot pushing forwards. And a drill I'm using with students that's really helping for this is the step back drill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position my feet together, but with the ball opposite, say, my back foot. So if I was setting up to the ball, what I'm going to do is pull my trail foot up to my lead foot. Then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move the ball away for this because I don't want to hit the ball at the moment, is I'm going to start with the club out in front of me, chest facing the club as well. So I've rotated upper body and pelvis goes a bit forward as well. And I'm going to try and be in some kind of golf posture, so I'm not going to be completely upright. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn back and step back. You've seen that lots. But it's a double step back. So not only am I going to step this foot back to the width of my stance, I'm also going to step it back. So I'm going to step it back around half of my size 9 foot back. So my foot has gone back and back. And what this does for golfers is it encourages them to feel a rotation with their pelvis where this sinks back, breaks that plane of glass. It actually gets that feeling of depth in their backswing, opposed to what lots of golfers are actually doing is they're almost stepping this way with this foot going forwards, which is what we see from the people who want to push forward with that pelvis. So getting this pelvis to rotate, but back and back, so we're only going to get our pressures going back this way with this step, we're going to get them going back this way with this one. What I love about this drill is if you use an iron, you can actually, it's hard, but for warming up and trying to get yourself a feeling that relates to hitting a shot, is you can actually work this into some shots. So set up to the ball, I would do this on a range, obviously where nothing really matters. So I'm just going to try and turn back and then hit. Like I've caught that horrible and thin, but it's out there. What it's doing is it's giving me the feeling of this depth. So the more you can feel that you're actually getting that pelvis to rotate around that back spot, and which the lots of golfers will feel with depth, which this drill does, is really going to help you control path, control strike, and get those better shots you deserve. Now the second feeling I'm going to use, and you can do this at home or at the practice range, but you won't be able to hit shots with this because you can only use one hand, is I'm going to try and get my lead knee not to cover up my lead foot. Meaning if I go up to the top of my backswing and stop with good pelvis depth, with good rotation, when I look down here, so obviously I have to take my hands off the club, I can see my lead foot over my lead knee. So as in, I can't with my shoulder in the way, but if I just move that out of the way, I can see that my pelvis has moved in a way that hasn't pushed this way. Now, when I do the swing that we see from many golfers, poor posture, push that pelvis forward, stack the segments, my lead knee is at the ball, like everyone says, but my foot's back here. When I look down, it's kind of back and to the left side of my lead knee, because as this pelvis side, or my lead side of my pelvis, pushes forwards, I'm just covering that foot up and moving away from it. So making some practice swings, you can do this one-handed, where you feel like you've got the segments separating. So this is going deep, this stays forwards, and I've got this lead knee not covering lead foot. Is great for depth. So the more I push my pelvis back, so you can see me going back, the more this has to go forwards to get that balance. I can see way more of my lead foot. The more I push this forwards, this comes back because I want to balance. Can't see my lead foot now. And this is something I would work into my practice. So as in, if I was on the course here, I'm going to hit a few shots where I feel like I've just one-handed, seeing the lead knee and the lead foot connected. And then what I'm going to do is really try and work that feeling in to those shots. Yeah, get close. So how did you go with your answer to the hip turn question? So what we see from better players is the hip turn range is between 30 degrees to 45 degrees, being very top end, with pelvis hip turn in the backswing. What did you guess down below? Can't wait to see those answers. Remember, the important question is more about what you're turning around. You can't just turn your hips. It's not enough information. And it's going to be the same for your iron play, your driver swing. But guess what? You shouldn't be turning your shoulders either. And if you want to find out why, check this video out. Remember to subscribe. If you're not subscribed already, just click this button. See you in the next video.